Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of, well, wait, our wonderful digital presence update. Your website is becoming your business's source of truth. This is coming to you from TAF Solutions Digital Presence Update. My name is Joe Wallace, owner and CEO of TAF Solutions. Now, for those of us that don't know who we are, those of you guys, I should say, I know what we do. Those of you guys that don't know what we do, we help people get found online. I know that sounds like a very simple and generic thing, but boy, is it not a loaded statement, right? I don't just mean we help you with a few citations, we help you with a website, we help you with social. I don't mean just those things. Those things, sure, we can help with. But what we really do is we help you fuse all those things together so you guys can actually be found online. And not just, here's a special little trick that I can do to help you get found online. There is no trick to getting found online. It's a system. Okay. I don't have a single solution for it because there is no single solution for it. It is a systematic solution. So just like anything, any good system, it takes time and effort. That being said, we can help simplify that process so it doesn't have to take you forever. So here's today's question, right? I think it's a question that every business owner really needs to kind of consider now. If an AI assistant or search engine or a potential customer wants to understand your business, where are they getting the answer from? Is the clearest answer coming from your website? Or are they piecing it together somehow from an old directory listing, a review from 3 years ago, a social media profile you forgot about, and whatever Google happens to have stored in its database on your Google business profile, something you probably set up when you first started your company? It's not that we're trying to say that any of these things are useless. They are very useful when you actually utilize them. But your website should not be one version of your business, a forgotten brochure that you made a long time ago and then have just set it there, hoping that when people do show up, they see something that you said 5 years ago and it's going to convert them magically. Stop treating online assets as if they're not dynamic. There's not printed assets. These are not things that have been printed and you've given to people and it's forever. It has to stay that shape, right? It has to stay with this graphic, right? That's what a lot of people do when they're a solopreneur or a small business owner. Even medium businesses are guilty of this too, to a certain degree, depending upon how they do their business model. But mainly small business owners are of a set it and forget it type thing. And why wouldn't they be? Right? Why wouldn't they actually want to do that? I mean, their focus is to provide the service, usually. That's why they got into the business in the first place, and they would prefer to continue to do that than have to worry about this gobbledygook over here, that is, digital presence. Like, what even is that? Why does it matter is a question I hear a lot from business owners. And it's massively important, massively so important, because in the past, it was just kind of an inconvenience, I think, for folks to have to deal with it. But because everything's being gate-kept behind these algorithmic lines, behind these AI agent lines, it becomes now super important that you focus on your digital presence. Otherwise, you won't even be put into the conversation even by accident anymore. You'll actually actively be kept out of the conversation. I know I'm getting off topic a little bit because I want to talk about the website a little more today and why it's so useful. But I have to preface all of this with a lot of context for those that haven't really listened to this before. I talk about this a lot if you haven't guessed. For those that are new to the podcast, feel free to go ahead and give us a like and subscribe, of course, because if you do, I get to hear a heck of a lot more of this stuff if it sounds interesting to you. So it's, again, not a brochure. Website, not a brochure. That's kind of what it is. They build it, they launch it, businesses do. They leave it alone, and they kind of revisit it when it looks embarrassingly old, and that's it. Only when it's embarrassingly old. And that's no good, right? That's very dangerous, actually, because your business changes over time. You know, your services evolve, your team members come and go, service areas expand. Hope, at least that's the hope and the dream, right? And your prices and your processes actually change as well. Not to mention that your customer questions change. I mean, and we'll go into why that's important in just a second for your website. And more importantly, guys, your qualifications and your experience grow too. They change. If not expand, get better. If your website does not reflect all these facets of your business, customers and machines and AI receive outdated information. And while that may not seem that important to you right now, because you're only maybe thinking about people, think about someone who has the capability of scouring the internet tirelessly, finds you because someone asked them a question personally. Who is the best landscaper that you know? And because you, this person that we're talking about as an individual who has this tireless capability, that never gets tired, can always find what they're looking for, never gets bored, scours the internet for as much time as it takes, to find services related to what that person they like asked them about. And all of that information gets funneled into this documentation, and they do research on it. They're tireless. They can do what they can do. They have nothing else to do that day. They'll just do that. Now imagine, would you want to impress that person? Because they're going to make a recommendation, not just to that one person, by the way. Now imagine that person is able to give recommendations to everyone in the world. In the world. I know I just went from one person to billions of people, but that's the truth. Would you care now? Because when you say you don't care, or when you're not seeing the value of digital presence, you're saying that you don't care about that one person recommending you. Here's the even worse part. When people are only relying on that person's recommendations and they're not looking at anything else, which is increasingly happening, you're not even in the conversation at all, because the person's like, well, wow, these people look shady. They don't have an outdated website. They're on social media, not doing anything. They're probably not even real, to be honest with you, because all the digital receipts, they're not even here. There's nothing here. So they're not real. So now you're not even a part of the conversation. You're not even considered. You are actually excluded from the conversation. That is the issue we're seeing. That's the danger. People want to know, are you legitimate? Yes. Do you provide what I need? Do you serve my area? Can I trust you? Those are the things. But search engine AI systems, in order to make sure that the people see what those things are, they need clear pages, internal relationships, business details, technical accessibility. They need enough consistent information to understand the business and connect it to a customer's question, at the very least. If your site doesn't do that, then, well. So your website gives you the best opportunity, basically. What I'm trying to say is to define your own business clearly. That's what it does. But AI will still compare that information with reviews, profiles, and directories and other sources. If you do not clearly explain your business, the internet will explain it for you. Clip that. I'm going to use a small business example for this, by the way. Let's say you're a contractor, right? Website says residential remodeling. Google profile emphasizes handyman services. Your directories, they list general construction. And the reviews mostly mention cabinet installation. And hey, your social media that you've maybe done a little bit of mainly shows commercial jobs. So, what category out of all of those things does the business actually belong in? That question about categories matters way more than most owners realize. Because, hey, a person may look at that and go, oh, they do a lot. But they also might be confused because maybe what they're looking for was actually cabinet installation, saw some reviews because they came up, and then went to your website and it said residential remodeling. Okay, that's an easy tie-in, sure. But let's say on social media, the only thing you're talking about is commercial jobs. Well, they're looking for someone to help them with cabinetry at their home. So if on social media they see the inconsistency, they're like, well, I'm not going to call them. They only do commercial. Now imagine you're an AI, like I mentioned, tireless, does not get bored, has nothing else to do that day, will find things and nooks and crannies you didn't even think about. All right. Because not only does it do that and have that, it has access to the technical knowledge in a lot of ways. I'm not saying it's brilliant because it's not. It just has a photographic memory. So think about that. It's important to remember that it can do. It will find the things that it sees as not right and then just go, you know what? No, that this doesn't make sense. I'm not going to recommend you. So being known is not the same as being recommended, is the point, right? An AI system may know your business exists and still not associate you with the problem the customer is trying to solve. That is the biggest danger. Kind of put a different way. One thing I want to point out is that a recent research discussed by Search Engine Land found that changing the category in AI prompting could actually make a huge difference. And I want to point out this one right here. So the category using an AI prompt could dramatically alter which brands were recommended. One brand moved from a 1% recommendation rate under one category framing and a 90% recommendation rate under another. Well, another moved from 90% to zero. The study kind of focused on athletic brands, right? In this particular instance. So we shouldn't treat this as a universal kind of like rule of thumb here or anything. But it clearly demonstrates just how the category that you need to be put into can shape and reshape AI recommendations. Super interesting article. Highly recommend looking at it. Going to throw that in the link down below. Also wanted to point out earlier, we talked about how the website is also the single source of truth in local AI. This is absolutely the truth right here, guys. This is where we're at. Okay. Zero click does not mean zero opportunity is an accurate statement. And for those that are not familiar with zero click search, highly recommend you look it up. Very important to understand what that concept is too, but let's get back to it. That being said, a company might be known as a marketing agency, for instance, another example, a web designer, a reputation management company, an AI consultant, a local SEO provider, or technology partner, but what category does the customer use? I'm using Tab Solutions here in this example. And which category has the internet associated with the business? And so we associate ourselves under digital marketing. However, that is not, we don't, it is the best fit category that we have until the internet deigns to give us, Google themselves deigns to give us another category for us to fall into. I think digital presence is going to become way more important and a distinct difference from digital marketing in the near future. But I digress. So which category should you use is a great question. A great example might be, what a dentist near me, a cosmetic dentist experience with veneers, an emergency dentist open Saturday, a family dentist good with anxious children, right? Those are related but not identical categories. That is something to consider as well. So, does your website clearly explain your primary category? That is the best way to ensure that you're getting what you need. Does it explain your specialties? Are your service pages distinct enough to answer specific customer needs? And do outside websites describe you in the same way? You cannot control every question customers ask. You can't. But you can make it easier for each, and I mean each, of the search engines and AI, algorithmic, crazy agents and bots to understand where you belong. That brings us to this next problem, though. A lot of business websites contain plenty of words, but very little clarity. I'm talking about the generic content, guys. The stuff that you probably built with AI. Hey, I find it incredibly hilarious, by the way, that AI judges you for using AI on your website. AI literally will look at you and go, hey, you know what? And then I'm talking about like Gemini and Bard and Claude and ChatGPT. All those guys are literally looking at your website going, I know that you wrote this with AI because I can see all the generic stuff that indicates AI. Therefore, I'm going to now not trust you as much, and I'm not going to recommend your website to your customers. Wild, right? Absolutely wild. That's where we're at. Search Engine Land's July 21st guidance, getting to another article here, it really argues that modern content must be easy for distracted users and machine systems to interpret. Its central recommendation is to focus less on artificial scores, filler, and superficial freshness. Notice the superficial part. How is it identifying that, right? It wants to focus more on clarity, useful connections, and reduced friction, basically making it easier for you to jump into a site and look at it, right? So we're going to look quickly at this real quick by putting this in here. Bam. And as you can see, very interesting. What's interesting is that this right here is what really hit me right here. The new SEO playbook is built around clarity. I think it's important that you cut out the clutter and the fluff. And this is the same kind of stuff, by the way, guys, that we've been talking about in other episodes of the podcast. We've been talking a lot about finding that if you're using super polished content, for instance, like in video or images and stuff like that, super polished, you're actually going to get less traction with AI agents than if you were to just open up camera and start talking, right? On your phone is what I mean. Instead of using a professional camera. And I know that's wild to think about because, hey, your average person is thinking, well, I need to be more professional. If I'm a business owner, I need to actually do more. And in a lot of ways, you'll be right if you were marketing exclusively to people. ish. Because even people now are starting not to trust super polished content, especially stuff that looks way too smooth or has certain smatterings of what AI generates. Okay. So, guys, for you out there who are still in video production land, including myself, it is becoming increasingly more and more clear that making bespoke content, bespoke video work needs to be super high dollar, super expensive because you're a dying breed. When everyone can generate video, but they don't understand how video works, when they don't know how to generate good quality video, not because they're not able to piece it together. I'm self-taught, but because the shortcuts look like shortcuts. So those people are going to quickly find out that this is a field that will quickly weed out the weak. And for those that are able to do a lot of things that most people now think is too much time and effort to learn, such as 3D animation, 2D animation, using whatever brand of poison you want to pick, be it Adobe, Nuke, or a bunch of other places that offer up. Sorry, DaVinci Resolve. Should I say Blackmagic? They those all will, play a factor if you don't want to learn these things. I think Blender's in there somewhere, but I don't consider that to be. I was trying to be too many things at once, in all honesty. I would say Blackmagic is probably trying to be too many things at once as well, too. But we'll see how those guys progress. Again, this is not a video production podcast. I'm turning it into one. I'm sorry, but the point is it's not. Polished content is something that you want to have as a business. You do, but you want it to be used very specifically. If you want a commercial, for instance, or online, you should create polished content. If you just want to make social media posts, you don't need a $250,000 camera to do it. Okay, you can break out your phone, start talking. People trust that more than the person who's looks too clean, looks too nice, too smooth, too generated. Flaws are what we're looking for now. And that's what people look for now. They don't want AI slop. They want the flaws. They want to trust that. Next, we have this. So basically, we're talking about clarity now for your website. Clarity is becoming the new optimization of your website. So a clear service page should kind of quickly communicate a few things, right? Let's do a service page. What the service is, who it's for, what problem it solves, where it's available, what the process looks like, why the business is qualified, what someone should do next. Yes. Some common website clutter I see on a lot of websites is long introductions that don't say anything. Generic language like quality solutions. Huge walls of text. Please. Why? Keyword stuffed headlines. Yes, the headings are keyword stuffed. Pop-ups before the visitor can read. Big no-no. Multiple pages repeating the same information, and I mean the exact same information, not variations for, say, service areas. Okay. Which that should not be the same info anyway. You need to switch it up a little bit. You need to reword things for your service areas. Okay. Then, of course, last but not least, AI written copy that sounds polished but communicates very little. Lots of stuffing. A website does not become authoritative because it has more words. It becomes authoritative because it removes uncertainty. Clip that. Look, your AI systems often need to extract smaller direct answers from larger pages. Okay. So that makes clear headings, focus sections, strong internal links, defined services, useful FAQs, and specific examples. These are way more valuable than vague marketing language now. Look, sometimes I can read half a homepage and still know what the company sells, or still not know, I should say. I can still not know. And that kind of leads it into another shift happening right now, leads us into this next shift. Because we may need to publish less and not more. Because on July 22nd, there's this great article that made a data back case for slower, more deliberate publishing. Think about that for a second. More deliberate publishing. We're going to take a look at this together, guys. Let's take a look. We got this right here. Boop, boop. There we go. So, apparently, what's interesting about this is that a lot of businesses have been told they need to keep feeding, right? Keep feeding the content machine. More blogs, more location pages, and more social posts, more keywords, more pages. But more pages kind of create more responsibility. And that's fine, right? But here's the problem. Like every single one of your damn pages that you make, blogs, whatever, they all become outdated. They all become duplicative, right? Sometimes you say the same thing, but just slightly differently, right? They can become contradictory, poorly linked, forgotten, and worse, a source of incorrect information. So, the strategy should be, is the content of your page still accurate? Does it answer a real customer question? Is it connected to the correct service? Does it reinforce the business's expertise? Is it earning traffic, citations, inquiries, or trust? Which of those things? Or all of those things? Should it be improved, combined, redirected, or removed? You do not need the largest website in your market. Okay? You need the strongest, clearest, useful body of evidence for your business. Clip that. A practical approach for SMB, in my opinion, would be to go ahead and maintain your core service pages first, guys. Just do that. At least update foundational business information everywhere you can. Improve your high value articles. Just improve them. Add to the existing articles. Add content only when it fits a genuine gap. And remove or merge pages that create confusion. And let's stop manufacturing freshness. Let's stop doing that by changing dates without improving the substance. Once the visible context and content is clear, I should say, we can help machines understand the relationships behind this. Okay. That's where structured data helps. I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but structured data is basically, sounds like a complicated word, but it's not. It really isn't. Structured data is essentially labeling information so machines do not have to rely entirely on guesswork. Okay. Google has basically stated that structured data helps its systems like the Google, like the overview for AI, all the other content on your page about entities such as companies, Google Business Profile, stuff like that. These things have basically said that has really helped gather information for them, so they can easily more recommend you. So, for example, in our case, what I would say is I would go beyond a basic definition. I would use useful relationships to help tie some things together for structural stuff like this. Like Joe Wallace is associated with TAF Solutions. TAF Solutions provides specific services. Those services are available in defined geographic areas. A service has related FAQs and case studies. They do. Look at our site. A location belongs to the same organization. Again, look at our site. An author has experience with the topic being discussed. Again, blog articles on our website. Schema cannot rescue you from vague and inaccurate content. Search engine land. Earlier schema guidance describe it as an infrastructure, not a magic bullet. Okay. So, what it tells us in a nutshell, guys, is schema should translate the truth already visible on the page, not invent a better version of the business behind the scenes in the metadata. Won't work. Has to be visible on the page now. Really, guys, what it boils down to is that if you can make clear, concise information for people and really dissect what that looks like, dissect what works best for people, you will achieve a similar effect with all of the algorithms and the AI that's out there. That is where we're at. So as long as you're just being hyper vigilant about what information is out there about you and your business, that is exactly where you're going to win and defeat everyone else easily, because they are not doing that. Very rarely, even people who think they are vigilant are not as vigilant as they could be. Even people who thought they were vigilant, there's been times where I've had to go in and really make huge changes to task solutions. And we're still in a process right now for that, having to wipe away some other things that, maybe we had location changes or different hours at some point. Those things still exist on the internet. I'm constantly having to make sure those things no longer show up, because they're not accurate. And while it seems like an inconvenience, historically, people would say that's just an inconvenience. It's fine as long as it's on your main website. No, it's not anymore, because that tireless individual is now going to be able to go out there and find all the nooks and crannies of the things that you thought were just hidden. Well, they're not anymore. Okay. All right, so we're going to quickly jump into the last section of this, which is the digital presence update section, where we do some quick updates. So, update 1. Businesses now have two search surfaces to monitor. Modern content strategy increasingly has to measure traditional Google performance and AI visibility separately. A page can lose clicks while gaining AI citations, or appear in AI answers despite never ranking strongly in traditional search. Basically, guys, traffic and visibility are no longer the same measurement. Businesses should watch instead rankings, website traffic, conversions, AI mentions, AI citations, brand accuracy, and platform coverage. That is that takeaway. Update number 2. Category language can alter recommendations. The recent category framing study shows that the language customers use can strongly influence which brands AI associates with the request. AKA, what that means for you guys, your business needs more than name recognition. It needs problem recognition. Okay, so review how the website describes main category, subcategories, customer problems, service specialties, industries served, and geographic relevance. Boom. Number 3, schema is moving beyond rich result decoration. Schema is increasingly being discussed as part of entity clarity and knowledge graph development. What that means for you guys is that machines need relationships, not isolated facts. These things have to be consistent. Update number 4, Google still says fundamentals apply in AI search. So, Google's guidance basically says that for succeeding in AI-powered search, you need to emphasize visible, useful content, crawlability, page experience, accurate structured data, strong image and videos. It also says structured markup should match what users can actually see. What that means in plain English is AI search did not eliminate the fundamentals. It raised the cost of being unclear with those fundamentals. Clip that. Update 5, my last update, is Google continues refining technical documentation. Google's July search documentation updates included clarification about canonicalization reevaluation, I can speak, times, and new category support for merchant product structured data. These are more relevant to technical themes in e-commerce businesses than the average service company, but they illustrate just how Google continues expanding machine-readable classification and clarifying how sites communicate authoritative page versions. What that means for you guys is that your website is not the entire digital presence. It should be, though, the central place where your business defines itself clearly. Remember, your website establishes the record. Your reviews validate the experience. Your listings validate the facts. The social activity you have on all of your various platforms demonstrates life and personality. Your structured data on your website helps machines interpret relationships. Your third-party mentions reinforce your authority, and the consistency across all of that in terms of the information that's out there allows every signal to support the others, making you number one and actually wanting to be mentioned. The future of digital presence is not about creating the most information. Okay. It's about creating the clearest, most consistent, and most trustworthy explanation of your business. And then making sure that the rest of the damn internet agrees. Clip that. This is Joe Wallace with Taft Solutions, helping you make sense of what's changing so you can keep moving forward. Have a great rest of the week, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.